Issue 41 of Last Page. Like and subscribe. Subscribe and like. The three of us sat here a few months ago and talked about how awful this show was going to be, how terrible X-Men 97 looked. Jason, you are a beacon of positivity. However, even you, diehard X-Men, you know more about the X-Men than anyone I know as far as the comic source material. You love the original 92 show, and yet you also were out on it just looking at the trailer. Did this show, in fact, melt all our hearts? Starting with you, Jason.
To answer your question, yes, it did. I don't remember being so standoffish as you two. I mean,
No,
if
you were.
Oh yeah,
Really?
Jason,
Okay.
Don't retcon this.
Okay.
Don't retcon this.
I
Jason.
might have had my toe just dipping in the pool of your guys' negativity.
You watched the X-Men 97 trailer, and what are the thoughts that flood through your veins?
It was like, I am so hyped for this, and then watching that, I was like, I cannot believe this is what that I've been hyped about. I mean, cash grab, bastardized piece of shit. Those are the first things that come to my mind when I'm like, who did they give this to like do this?
Paragon of positivity, Jason Caesars.
This is like when you do X-Men wrong, this is when you see the other side of the coin. I could not be less excited about this, and I cannot believe this is the product we've been hyped about for so long.
I think the animation might be worse than the original, dude.
Like, you guys put negative dollars into making this quality. Like, it's so bad, and it's so and
weird.
It's so weird.
I don't remember being so standoffish as you two, but yes, it melted, I guess, my cold heart in that one. But yes, a fast-paced soap opera of the X-Men that I was wanting for and hoping for after close to 30 years of an incredible 5 seasons. So yes, it was amazing. Let us talk about it, how amazing it was. How astonishing, how amazing, how spectacular, how uncanny. Yes, all. Please harp on it with me. I'm finished harping. Yeah, no. Who's the what?
Woke liberal trash.
What?
Sorry. Impressively good. Yeah, impressed. I'm impressed. Most of the characters feel really true to form. Didn't expect that. I thought they would change their personalities a lot. I love that they every character has at least 2 different looks through the show. 2 different comic costume variations, so we get a lot of we get like a nice healthy change of characters, like seeing them at different from different comics.
Actually, they planned on that. Each story that they're telling in the comics is the costume that character is wearing during that story in the comics.
Yeah, not a perfect show, not perfect. I wouldn't say it's better than the original. Some of the updated graphics and images for sure, really nice to see, and honestly, kind of a headache in a good way. But overall, one of the better Disney Plus shows that they've put out yet. It's one of the better ones.
Our big complaint was that in the trailer, it just looked terrible. I think the animation, the biggest thing for me is the frame rate just unnecessarily for 2024 just seemed like they were cutting corners. And in this show, it grows on you. The style grows on you, but it works. And a lot of what they do is very creative. There's some really creative use of animation in this show. I think a lot, especially the big set pieces, the explosions and the lasers and the psychic energy and all of that stuff really makes the show feel big. Even though it is a 30-minute cartoon show for children, it is in fact a sequel series. It takes place basically right after the original show ended, where Charles Xavier dies at the end of X-Men 92, and now we have a new show that takes place as a sequel series. Most of the voice cast returns, the ones that are still living, or at least still have the vocal range that they did 30 years ago, because some of those actors couldn't reprise the role just because their voice has aged and they can't play an 18-year-old anymore. But I thought the voice cast overall crushed it. There's a lot of places to start. I want to start with just saying I love that Cyclops and Jean are front and center here. Cyclops is the guy that I've always felt like in the movies has gotten the short end of the stick, just kind of being like, well, Wolverine's cooler, he sells better, we're gonna push him as the lead guy of the X-Men, but really Cyclops is the guy. And in Charles Xavier's absence, it's cool to see him kind of get the shine and the responsibility of having to lead the X-Men. Him and Jean basically right there. Jason, how was this show's representation of these characters? How did you, Mr. X-Men, who was very critical of the movies when they first came out because you didn't like the liberties they took, how do you feel like these characters represent not just the show from 92, but also the comic books?
Excellent question, Maverick, because this was a critical time in my love for comics starting was this show. And I think it was for a lot of people where this is almost was the introduction into comics for a lot of people. Some people read the comics first and then the show, but I think at my age, it was this show. And then I've got to get as much more content for X-Men as I possibly could. So different. So I'm watching this show as a kid being introduced to these characters and storylines for the first time. So I see something like Mojo World or something that they did. Now I'm looking for something like, oh, I want to read more about that and read more about those characters, or Days of Future Past, some of these very cool storylines that they did. And then what this does with 97, as they did in the old show, is they ran through it with breakneck speed. They are taking, sometimes hundreds of comic books and tying them into just either one, or even sometimes we were lucky enough to get a 3-parter episode and some of the old stuff in the news. So it's so different now where I'm looking at it oh, I know what the Inferno storyline is with Madeline Pryor and Nathan Summers and all of that. I'm now seeing how you guys are going to do that rendition of it. It's a totally new way of seeing the show. They just released this behind the scenes of the original X-Men show and then some of the new stuff where it was all about paying homage to the old stuff. It's we got to make sure we're doing the old characters justice, the voice actors, the music, the producers, the directors, all this sort of stuff. We're even going to bring them back in and help us be consultants on this new project. So Chris Claremont is who wrote the X-Men from 74, 92, something like that. So this huge section of the X-Men are written by this one dude, and every single storyline from the old X-Men and this new ones are taking away from his stuff. And so he might even now move into more of the 2000s X-Men. So that's new territory for me, because that's not as where I have focused on the comics as much, where I love the 80s and 90s stuff that was written there. And
how do you feel about the character representation, or is there a certain character or characters that you liked the most or did not like in this show?
I like a lot of the X-Men. That's the nice thing about the X-Men, is there's so many good characters. It's kind of hard to pick just one. Storm, I really like. I'm a diehard Storm fan, have been for a long time. I really like her character and her progression. The losing of the powers, that is one of those things that kind of irritates me. Because I would just rather she's just using fucking lightning bolts all the time. I'd rather watch that. But they do a really good job of diving into each character and giving them these arcs over the course of the season, and them dealing with their own, people dealing with their own trauma, and it seems to be a recurring theme for this season. And so I like Storm, and they tie into her claustrophobia, which is a big part of her character. And her romance with Forge, I didn't see that coming, but that's a big classic storyline, is her romance with Forge. So I like that they tied that in. Why do they have to kill Gambit? What? Really? Everybody we could have killed, and we had to kill Gambit? That's fucking lame,
dude. Because he's the favorite. It holds the most emotional weight when he kills it. Dude.
Lame.
Hey,
killed
spoiler.
Jubilee. Can we all agree that if we needed to kill somebody, we could have just killed Jubilee?
Dude, no one dies. No one dies in comics. They're all coming back. Don't worry.
Right.
Dude, don't worry.
It's gotten to the point, and especially in that episode. I mean, they have the episode they kill Gambit and Magneto all in one swoop, and then 2 episodes later, Magneto's alive. And with Charles dying at the end of 92, and then all of a sudden he's back. And that was a problem I had with the show, was how they handled that. But death doesn't seem that big a deal. They've already planned a season 2 and 3. So unless this is just going to be Game of Thrones X-Men and we're left with Wolverine, Old Man Logan as the final story arc of this, I mean, maybe that's their plan, but I don't think so.
Nah, dude, Gambit comes back as one of Apocalypse's Deathmen or Horse of Deathman. Yeah, I think he
one of
actually
the four horsemen.
The
yeah.
Horseman
of Death. Thank you.
Horse
He like
people. It could be
But
anybody.
the four horsemen of apocalypse. God damn it, Jason! You ever read a fucking Bible?
dude, I said horse them, the horse them, horsemen, horse them.
Anyway,
I said it right. Yeah.
It was cool watching the behind.
That was good. I just came up with that too. Horse them.
That was stupid.
The four horsemen of apocalypse. I'm fucking dead.
God damn.
No.
Anyway, I did like watching the behind the scenes of seeing the different old voice actors reprising their roles, and it was really cool to hear the lady that voices Storm talk about her Shakespearean background, and immediately it clicked. I'm like, that makes so much sense, because the way Storm has been handled in the old show was just this larger than life. Everything was a speech, like the way she talked, and then it was just like, that's really cool that she's like a Shakespearean actor, because that now when you think of Storm, that's how you think of her. You think of her speaking like that, and a lot of it is due to that to the lady's performance.
Like a goddess. She was like, I'm going to portray like a god or a queen. Like, she's like, oh, I can do queen.
Cal Dodd doesn't sound like he did 30 years ago, because he's like 80 years old now.
It's so
But
gravelly
he's still,
and
like,
good.
He still brings it, It's still like, it's not quite the same voice. The guy that does, they brought in because the actor that portrayed Cyclops in the show passed away. The guy that they got for this,
Perfect.
He sounds exactly like Cyclops.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
crazy.
that was crazy. I actually had to look that one up. I was like, was he one of the originals that they brought back? I was like, oh damn, it's not. I mean, nails
another
it.
good one they didn't bring back was Magneto. That was a newer actor, I think, on that one. Yeah, he died as well,
Yeah.
but he did a fantastic job. And honestly, that's what even kept me with this show. Was I think it was the trial of Magneto was maybe the second episode, and his speech that he gives, like when Storm takes the shot, and loses his powers, and he grabs the like, I don't know, senators or whatever, and the buddy who shot her, and takes him up to space and just gives this real speech, like goosebumps. And I mean, that's not the only time that I got goosebumps from a couple of his speeches, where just like Shakespearean.
In every movie or show that Magneto has been in, there's at least one moment when he has just an iconic never again. It hits every time. And that is a testament to great voice acting. And this is the fucking difference, dude. It's what I've been talking about. The difference between getting voice actors and then just Chris Pratt. Like, Chris Pratt's doing the Garfield movie. It's the same voice, dude. The same voice from the Lego movie. The same voice from Super Mario without the Italian accent. Like, but then you get like actors, like that do Storm and Wolverine and Gambit and Rogue and Magneto. And it's just night and freaking day, because these people are professionals at what they do. This is their craft, and it makes an entirely different, imagine if Chris Pratt was the voice of Cyclops.
God. Oh, God.
Yeah, it would be
by X-Men.
Hey, God, shoot me now, and they did go on into that in the behind the scenes, and I think I heard this before, but it's all Canadian, the voice actors in the original, and they even went for the Thesperian, Shakespearean actors rather than the pool of people who did animated, voiceovers and stuff. So yeah, they were already going Shakespearean from the get-go.
They took our jobs moment when in the behind the scenes I saw that the actor that does Magneto is British. And he's just speaking all British-like, and I'm like, this fucking guy, like, they're just better at being Americans than Americans. Like, goddamn it, they're just better than us. But again, to your point, voice actors and people that specialize in this are really fucking good at it, because they're the best at what they do. Like, that's what they do.
You didn't even get one of those for Wolverine. Never once in this series did he say, I'm the best at what I do.
I think we got egg
like
sucking one time, so I was happy when he called someone an egg sucker, because I remember that was like from his first episode.
How did you guys feel about, we're always pretty critical about, well, Remy and I are very critical about anytime they're just dangling things in front of you, be like, look, it's Captain America. But Rem, did you feel that some of these cameos were cool, or did you just feel like they were unnecessary?
They make sense, because in the here, let's just show you what's going on with the rest of the world. I feel like for the most part, I get it. Captain America is going to be a politically involved character, so it's like if something is happening on a national level, he will be there.
Yeah. Cut to him
so
to
that
get
makes
the
sense.
president's reaction kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then it's just you get the ground level of New York because it's just Daredevil and then like not Luke Cage, but Cloak and Dagger and Spider-Man.
Yeah. Like you guys were saying, if they want the reaction of New Orleans, they're going to go to a character from there, and then New York to that one, or LA to that one, where we're not going to show some random person of LA. We want to show a person that we know that's in LA and their reaction to whatever worldwide event is going on. So I feel like they did it so well, and they should have done it much more. And I think the morph stuff.
You're a slut for Easter
Yes,
eggs.
yes.
Dude.
I want just an entire episode just cameos. One
Just all
second
the Easter
cut.
eggs.
Just cuts. That's all it is to reactions of one situation.
All the Easter Bunny porn on his history of porn. Yeah, Remy, you're right. There is what I liked about the cameos was that it is a world not just of X-Men. It is a world of all the heroes. And the big question always is, well, what was so-and-so doing during this apocalyptic event? And it makes sense. It's like, it is nice to know because we do know that it is a world shared with the Avengers and all these other characters. So just to see exactly where they are or what's happening, and the fact that they were about to, when the Sentinels start to run amok, that they were about to engage in them before the X-Men save the day. But that's nice to see that it's just like, they are there. It's not like the world's ending and they're not doing anything, or we're just going to ignore it. They do exist in this world, so it's important to highlight them.
The X-Men got this. Let's just sit back and relax and watch this on TV. X-Men got this handled.
I was like, the X-Men are the greatest fictional team of all time.
I agree with that statement.
I was like, I'm pretty sure, like, just down the line, the greatest team ever. I can't think of a better team.
And it's...
you mean like 94 Bulls or like... the 2017 Warriors.
The difference is that the X-Men weren't fighting janitors and guys with day jobs to
plumbers.
become the greatest team ever. Let's talk greatest episode/moments. I loved episode 3, where Mr. Sinister haunts the mansion.
Fucking mind trip, dude. Holy shit.
Blew my fucking mind. Like, Nightmare, Studio Ghibli that we just watched. What's it called?
Spirited Away.
Spirited Away. I was like, oh my God. It was so cool. Like, it was so effective that this nightmare fuel is happening. I was really not expecting something so creative like that to happen in this show. I loved that episode.
That shit was sick. I was just like, they let this kind of stuff on Disney Plus. Like,
it got dark.
That is not for the faint of Kit's heart. Like, that shit was pretty hardcore. And just all of the grotesque monsters. Like, you have Gambit rushes in and it's Magneto and Rogue, and their skin is like melting together
and pulling off.
And then there's the other. I think is it Jubilee? I forget who it is. Where there's like a monster who's like poking their face out of their own mouth, and they're just like morphing back and forth into all these nasty. It's wild, dude.
I think the first episode, like, of how that felt like the Night of the Sentinels, the first episode of the original X-Men, where is us getting back to it, the music, some of the fight scenes with Cyclops, and just setting it up very well too. I think that might be the highlight for me. And then maybe the finale, like that singing of the intro music where they have like some opera choir going, ha, 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 ha. It's like all slow and drawn out. It's like, that was another one on the finale that I really connected with. So
can we just say that Magneto, like in a real world scenario, we would all follow Magneto. He's such a better leader than Charles. He's such a better leader. Like when Charles is just like, no, you can't kill these people while they're just being slaughtered. All their people are just being slaughtered and hunted down. And Charles is like, no, you can't do it. Charles
plays not to lose. Magneto plays for keeps.
Yes.
Fails to learn from his mistakes, Charles, man, every time. And that's what he keeps saying, is like, we all realize that Charles can be wrong, and it's like mind-blowing when that's a possibility. It's like, yeah, dude, he's not always right. He has the best intentions, but he's not always right.
I loved when it's coming to a head I think it's the Penultimate Ultimate episode, where Charles is having to try to control Magneto, and they're having it out on the spaceship. And when Wolverine comes up from behind and guts Magneto, and you see the blood through the claws, and he talks shit in his ear. Oh, that was fucking. It was so good. It just felt like, yeah, like you fucking got him. Like in the original show, you know, most of the time Wolverine's claws come out and he punches people, but it doesn't go in you know, they have to go around the fact like he has claws, but unless it's a robot, typically he's not penetrating anybody. But in this, to see him fucking jab Magneto, it was so awesome. And then Magneto just goes fucking Super Saiyan and just pulls the adamantium out. Like, oh my God, that was so well done. Where I was like, that was the moment in the show where when it like ended and the credits rolled, I was like, fuck. There was a few moments of Beau DeMayo moments, and I don't know how much it was him or not. I just know
he's the blame for all the negatives. You know,
I'm not saying for negatives, but I'm just saying there was a gay infusion in the show where I was like, this sounds like a gay dude did this. Where there's a lot of club scenes with techno music and the light sticks. And what's funny to me, I don't know how it's handled in the comics.
The light sticks. How old are you, Maverick?
Genosha. Now, when I think of, if you think of like in real life, right? A people that have been genocided and slaughtered, and then eventually got their own little territory, right? Like the Native Americans. They got their own little territory.
Where's this going? I don't know where I like where this going.
Wait. I just think of like Genosha, like you have a lot of problems. Like it's not like, oh, the Native Americans got their reservations and everything was great. And they all dancing in the streets. Oh yeah, we got a reservation. Like no, they have a lot of there's a lot of problems. If you watch Wind River, I mean, there's huge issues with getting your little plot of land that's supposed to be the protection area. But in the show, Genosha is handled like gay paradise. Like there's just music and everyone's running through the streets like like the most. This is not a real country. Like, what is happening here? There's just everyone just like, they're just running. That doesn't make any sense. Like, what's happening here? Like, everyone's just like smiling, like, oh, is that ice cream? Give me some. Like, what? This is not a real place. So I was just like, this just seems like a gay dude's idea of paradise.
Okay, I'm going to cut this part out, but I thought you were going to be like, what would happen if you had a people that was genocided and then you gave them their own plot of land and then they in turn started genociding the other people around them?
They leave Genosha and then 2,000 years later, they're like, you know what? Genosha is ours. Sorry, Genosha.
From the river to the sea. From the river to the sea.
All right, so yeah, final thoughts of season 1. It was it's very rare for us to all agree on something. We all agreed that we were not excited for the show, and then we all agreed that the show was pretty great. So kind of what is just the mental thought of where you stand with the show right now? Like, is it, man, this is now right up there with The Boys and the other concurrent shows running that, like, when this show comes out next year, is it like, oh man, I'm really looking forward to next year? Or is it kind of like, oh, when it comes out, whatever? Where does it kind of sit with you and your experience sit, Jason?
That's a good question, because I don't think I'm going to be as excited going to this next one as like I've got to watch it every week, or when is this show actually premiering so I can see it as soon as it comes out. I will definitely watch it. I'm definitely excited how they're going to redo this or do some of these great comic book storylines, because we're getting some cool stuff. Like Xavier wipes Magneto's mind, and so he becomes, or they manifest Onslaught after this. And I don't know if Onslaught, you know about that. It's like the worst parts of Xavier and Magneto, like becoming this being and then like wrecking havoc over the Marvel universe for like 10 years. And so like we're getting into some massively cool storylines. So how are they going to animate this? And I know people who are fans of the X-Men in the early 2000s are going to be just ready for some of these beautiful, cool storylines to be done. So, yes, I'm going to recommend it. I'm going to watch it. I'm trying to be that like 8 or 9, you know, as far as level of excitement. It's not that 10, you know, I really wish it was. But yeah, it's a solid 8.5, as far as like what I rate this and what I'm kind of like my excitement level like moving forward to.
I'll give it an 8, comfortable 8, not perfect, really fun, really good, way better than any other superhero cartoon that's running currently or out on the market or anything that's existed in the last 15 years, 20 years almost. Because most of those early 2000s like cartoons just got super silly and like completely unserious. So this is a nice change of pace, in that regard. But yeah, very fun. The animation definitely grows on you and ends up looking, some of the battles and the fight scenes and the powers and how they're used is just looks awesome. I'm looking forward to it, yes, but I guess I'm concerned that they don't have the original writer because he seemed to do a pretty good job. And now that they don't have him, and then now who's taking over and how much are they going to be actually trying to stick to source material and just keep following comics? Hopefully that's what they do. Hard to say. But I'll definitely be there for borderline appointment television next year, I think. At the very least, this show probably will come out once a year, not like fucking Invincible and just being like, we'll come back in a couple years.
8 out of 10, great. Just overall solid job of creating a big or multiple big story arcs that go over the course of 10 episodes. You do have a couple one-off, the Storm episode and the Jubilee episode, which I did like the animation of that. I thought they did a good job of taking Jubilee's powers from looking like silly fireworks to like making it really cool. And I did like the touch where they have a new voice actor for Jubilee, but the original Jubilee came back as the computer version of her because she has like an older voice, and she gives her like a life lesson about not living in the past and moving on. I thought that was a cool touch. But that was a part I had let enough episodes go where I could just watch that and watch the next one, as opposed to if I waited a week to watch that episode when I was like excited to see what's going to happen with Magneto and stuff, and I watched that, then I'd be fucking pissed. But regardless, almost every character is represented really well. And I'm curious at the end of this show, they break everyone up into thirds pretty much. And so you're going to get these very different kind of experiences, and the big bad being Apocalypse is back. So I felt like it left in a great position to then let everyone show a different side of them as they embark on a new challenge. They took the old challenge and immediately just went right into a new challenge. And that's the last page.